Good evening, my friend. Welcome to our 7 p.m. Eastern Time review of this thing of ours. I'm your host, Hendrik Wittenbowie, the Hottentots, and I'm here to talk about two cases in particular that I want to discuss. Number one, the Proud Boys verdict. A little bit of maybe Trump. You might be tired of that. The E. Jean Carroll case, which I've been telling you about for the longest time. And the latest involving this Marine, this former Marine, who apparently was responsible for what appears to be the death of an individual that was acting in an untoward manner. Schizophrenic, scaring the hell out of passengers. We'll talk about that. But first, let me give you a couple of things. Number one, it is important, it is critical, it is beyond necessary for you to subscribe to this channel. I can't say it enough. Everybody does it. You've heard it before. I'm going to say it again. You must subscribe. Number two, we thank you for your support. This is the future. No, strike that. This is the now. This form of discussion that we're in right now is going to replace. It is going to replace, I promise you, conventional cable news, to be sure. It is going to, it's already doing it now. It's different. It's different. It's me talking to you. You can watch it later. And also we have a wonderful studio audience standing by, ready not only to talk to me, but to talk to you and talk to each other. It's a beautiful, it's multidimensional, fantastic. Your support, your contribution, super chat, super stickies, super soak'em, super sloppies, whatever super, whatever it is, to take some type of an emotion. There we go. Look at this. Howie Brown. Look at that. See that? Keep it up. I know what you're thinking. Thank you, Howie. You see how easy that was? See how Howie, see what he's doing? Howie's saying, I want to be a part of this. Thank you, Howie. Howie? Excuse me. That's for you, Howie. That's for you. Hand crepitation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. See how easy that was? See what it does to me? It invigorates me. It says, yes, somebody's listening. Somebody cares. So thank you for that. I want to explain what is going on. But first I want to tell you that when it comes to the law, when it comes to legal matters, Howie, I don't care who's involved in it. If it's Trump, his son, his daughter, his Hunter Biden, doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I don't frame my opinion based upon whom I like. I don't do it like that. I don't frame my opinion. I don't say, well, I'm gonna see things through the prism that inures to the benefit of one particular side. No. Done exactly the way it is. I'm not saying that I agree with the law. I agree with the statutes. I agree with it. I don't. That means nothing to me. I'm going to explain this to you and also explain a little bit about how it works and perhaps maybe how we can do some things that, might explain. First and foremost, let us begin with what happened regarding the Marine. I hope you are familiar with it, but let me see if I can explain this to you. During the course of a visit, this Marine, former Marine, I believe, decorated, highly decorated, I believe. Not highly decorated, honorably discharged. Could have been decorated, I have no idea. There was a fellow who apparently was mentally ill, had been mentally ill, a former Michael Jackson impersonator. A lot of videos of that. And this person may have been in the middle of some psychotic fugue or something, was raising all kinds of hell, going up and down and driving people crazy and scaring people and doing some things and saying a whole bunch of stuff. Obviously, I don't know if there was any contact made, but he was obviously obstreperous. He was scaring people. He was threatening people. People were frightened. And this former Marine, jumped into it, got him in a carotid restraint, not a chokehold. Do not say chokehold. It is not a chokehold. I'm going to say it again. Repeat after me. It was not a chokehold. The first thing, if anybody tells you this, it is not a chokehold. What is a chokehold? Let me refer, if I could, to a Department of Justice, a document which reads as follows. Carotid restraints here. This. Sleepers, carotid restraints. Rear naked. They call it a choke, but it's not. Are not the same as chokeholds. Chokeholds apply pressure at the throat or the windpipe and restrict an individual's ability to breathe. You can't breathe because you can't breathe. The windpipe, the trachea, the larynx. The carotid restraint technique restricts blood flow to the brain, causing temporary unconsciousness. You can breathe. There's no problem with you breathing. You could talk, but you're unconscious. Completely different. These words matter. These words matter tremendously. It's like when somebody says a semi-automatic versus an automatic. I mean, it's a big difference. It's a big difference. We had a case here in New York regarding this fellow, Eric Garner, years ago. This fellow was standing outside on Staten Island selling loosies, these loose cigarettes. The store owners called the cops and said, get him out of here. He's driving people crazy. He's menacing. He's this big, hulking behemoth of a man with multiple prior arrests. So did this fellow here. Police came, told him to move. He said no. A police officer grabbed him, tried to put his arm around him. It didn't work. It wasn't a choke. He actually died on his way to the hospital by virtue of either, it was reported, some type of heart attack or asthma or something. Anyway. Same thing then. It was a chokehold. It's not a chokehold. That's a choke. This is different. Now, here is the problem. And I think you know what the problem is. The problem is that it is reported, it is alleged, and we can't say this enough, we weren't there. We weren't there. We weren't there. And if we weren't there, take everything cum grano salis, with a grain of salt. There were some videos, there were some photos that were taken, or some videos, some contemporaneous, photos, videos from cameras and the like. Okay. It is reported that he had him in this hold for like 15 minutes or some extremely long period of time, well after this fellow went limp. Now, the coroner looked at this and looked at the manner or the cause of death. Actually, it's a manner of death. There are 5 manners of death. Think of it 4 plus 1. Think of the acronym NASH, N-A-S-H. Natural, accidental, suicide, or homicide, plus undetermined. This doesn't tell you anything. Natural, accidental, suicide, homicide. Was it a natural death? No. Might have been, but it's difficult. Accidental? No. Accidental, not on the part. Normally, accidental refers to the decedent made a mistake, accident fell down, whatever. If not, an accident was performed on them. You being hit by a car is not an accidental death. That's it. Anyway. Though it might be. No, actually, that would be a homicide because we'll get to that in a moment. Suicide, certainly not. Homicide, death caused by another. Death caused by another. In fact, whenever there is a death penalty case carried out, on the death certificate, it says homicide. Manner of death, homicide. Okay. What we have here is a coroner, or at least it is reported that it was ruled as a homicide. Well, this doesn't surprise anybody, but people will view this somehow as being a murder. It's not a murder. Murder is different. Murder is a homicide. But murder is the intentional killing of another with malice of forethought and premeditation and all that sort of. First-degree murder, second-degree murder, depraved heart, reckless indifference, or manslaughter, negligent homicide. That's what this looks like. Now you might say, wait a minute. This guy was bothering people. True. He has a record a mile long. True. He's what do you talk? He's the true. But the problem is that it's this length. They say 15 minutes. I don't know if that's true, but that's the number that's being bandied about. Now, that's reality. He most probably will be charged with something along those lines, maybe involuntary manslaughter, maybe something not even involving jail. This wasn't somebody who got in a fight with somebody. He didn't insinuate himself into something that he wasn't involved in. He was trying to help people. He was trying to quell the situation. He went too far. Let me just explain that to you, make it very clear. He went too far. He didn't mean to do it. But people are so upset, and I'm hearing these friends of mine, you don't understand the subway. I know this subway. What does this have to do with anything? You went too far. Well, but you're missing the point. You're missing the point here. When you engage in this, you can go too far. Let me give you an example. Let's assume I had a belt with me, or a jump rope, or a cable, or something. And I'm standing there, and I've got this whatever. And instead of me getting him the karate restraint, I whip this around his neck, and I pull it back like that, and I get him down, and he goes limp. And I keep cinching that and pulling it and twisting it and turning it. You don't see that as being a problem? I do. You don't see this as, say, what are you doing? I'm pulling and I'm yanking and I'm twisting. What are you doing? I'm doing this. I'm pulling and I'm twisting and I'm... Well, you killed him. Well, doesn't matter. He was acting up. No, you should have stopped. See, that seems different. You had a ligature, a rope, a cord, a belt around his neck. It's a different story. It's the same thing. It just seems more, this one seems more like I'm doing something to defend. It's self-defense. It's more, I don't know what. Seems more responsible, more respectable versus, that. And people are missing the point. I keep hearing this all the time, but there's a dirtbag. You haven't been on the subway. I have been on the subway. What are you talking about? What are you, this has nothing to do with it. Now, let me tell you what else is a big deal. Let me explain to you what's going on. There is this world we live in right now where everybody's choking everybody out. I've never seen so much choking in my life. Again, it's not a choke, and I'm violating my own rule. It's called a choke, but it's not really. So we're gonna, for purposes of this, we'll call it carotid restraint, a sleeper, as we used to call it in the old days. I don't know what this is. Maybe it's because of, I guess, Joe Rogan, Bas Rutten, and Dana White, and UFC, and the Gracie, and MMA, and there's more of this than you can imagine. And not only that, there's more social media videos of people involving themselves in the same way. Go and look. How many people in the world of whatever it is will go and involve themselves in maybe, in fact, you've seen it. There's somebody in this public transportation, a bus or whatever it is, will have enough, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, get somebody in a rear naked choke. But that's it. They let go of it. After the fellow falls, everything's fine. He comes to, he's slow, he's a little goofy, everything's fine. Maybe and you've seen this before. But because this MMA, there's another one I think I told you about. There's this one scene where this kid, a smaller kid, is pushing this guy who's much bigger than him. And he's acting like a bully. And the big kid is just kind of standing there, kind of taking it. And then one day the kid snaps. Or not one day, the moment the kid snaps, picks this kid up and body slams him. If he hits his head, breaks his neck, has some kind of compression fracture, cervical or otherwise, becomes paralyzed, that kid's going to prison. Or whatever the equivalent is. You can't do that. Yeah, but he had it coming. No! Your reaction has to be proportional to that force being used against you. If somebody is merely threatening you, you can't break their neck like that. Yeah, but he was acting up. People miss the point. This is why I don't think people should be having as many guns, even though I'm an ardent defender of the Second Amendment. And I think self-protection is open carry and this kind of stuff. What if somebody had a gun on that thing? They go to say, I'll take care of this. No, wait. Well, he was acting up. This is he hadn't hurt anybody yet. He's threatening. He's acting like an idiot. And then Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, says, mental illness, excuse me, mental illness does not excuse you from criminal culpability. What does mental illness mean? Neurosis? What? What is she talking? I think I know what she's talking about. So we have to understand this thing right here. I'm hearing all this stuff from people. You don't understand it. They say, yeah, but he's whatever. Say, no. What he did, if he just choked him out, again, that term, just to stop him, okay, that's it. Later on, if there's some comorbidity, where have you heard that before? If something happens down the road, that may or may not have been a part of that, that's maybe okay because he did what he had to do because he was going to exact some type of physical damage or injury against these people. No problem with that. So that's it. And people will read this and, well, he's a Marine, you don't know. You're making this up. It doesn't matter. If you have a pistol and somebody comes up to your car and somebody says, hey, stands there menacing, yelling, and you pull a pistol out and you shoot him, you're going to be charged with second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, something, because you obviously overreacted. Yeah, but he was threatening you. How was he threatening you? Well, like this. Well, what does that mean? So the point is, and this is the most important thing, the point to all of this is, and this is very important, very critical, is that when you engage this, you better be ready to go and accept the consequences, even though you might have been well-intended, well-intentioned, honorable, doing the right thing, being the good Samaritan, or are you the vigilante? Next story, Proud Boys. What do you think about that one? The Proud Boys. I don't know necessarily who. I know the name. I know the name of the Proud Boys. But what's your take on the Proud Boys? Are these some kind of heroes? Are these some kind of... You like those Proud Boys? Okay. Well, my take is that you get a bunch of jerks standing around there in this quasi-paramilitary... And I know Antifa does the same thing. Please. Now, they were charged, I forget which of them actually were found guilty of seditious conspiracy. Do you remember me telling you about this? Do you remember me reading this statute to you? Do you remember this? I didn't write the statute. I wasn't responsible for that. Do you remember this? Do you remember this? It's very, very important. Very, very important. And you could say, well, it was some type of it was the federal, it was not, okay. Those two there. tell me how the feds got... Let me get the actual story here. Let's get this. Proud Boys. Proud Boys. The jury can... There we go. Proud Boy. 4 Proud Boys members found guilty of seditious conspiracy. There they are. 4 members of the far right. Far right. What would Antifa be? What would that be? Far left? I don't think left or right has anything to do with it. Anyway, the Proud Boys have been found guilty of seditious conspiracy by a jury in Washington for their roles to forcibly prevent the peaceful transfer of power from then President Donald Trump to Joe Biden. Enrique Tarrio, the Proud Boys' longtime chairman, Ethan Nordine, Joseph Biggs, Zachary Rell were found guilty of seditious conspiracy and a range of other charges, including 3 separate conspiracy charges, obstructing the Electoral College vote, and tampering with evidence. The guilty verdict marks the 3rd time that prosecutors have secured convictions for seditious conspiracy in the Justice Department's historic prosecution of these that breached the Capitol on January 21st. Now, as I've told you, ladies and gentlemen, here's Kika0503. Thank you, Kika. Thank you. And for you, or is that Kiaka? That's for you. Hand crepitations to you. Anybody want to know what seditious conspiracy is? I'm glad you asked. Always go to the statute. Always go and read it. It's a doozy, and you should keep it in mind the next time anybody thinks about doing something as stupid as this. It was stupid. It was a setup. Not that there might be evidence of somebody doing something wrong, but people were stupid enough to fall for this. But let me read this to you. And this is, and for those of you keeping track, this is 18 U.S.C., U.S. Code, United States Code, Section 2384, seditious conspiracy. If 2 or more persons, got to have 2 for a conspiracy, if 2 or more persons in any state or territory or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire, so getting rid of that language, if 2 or more persons conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States. So that's the first part. That's one way you can do it. 2 or more persons conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government. Now, stop right there. How would you, if you and I wanted to, all right, I want to put down the government. What does that mean? I don't know. You mean insult it? No, like putting down a horse. I mean, we're going to destroy the government. How do you do that? Let's say I wanted to actually do that. What does that mean? I'm serious. What does that mean? Okay. The second part of this is, or if 2 or more persons in the United States oppose by force the authority thereof. Well, that's pretty. Oppose by force the authority of the government? That covers a lot of stuff. Oppose the authority. How do I do that? Let's go. Or by force to prevent, now here we go, prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law. What were they doing? They were certifying the vote. They were certifying the vote. They were trying to officially certify, or whatever that was, that vote. And they were, one could argue, in violation of that. As for our friend, the shaman dude, or if somebody by force seizes, takes, or possesses any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof. Possesses any property, like the Capitol, to possess it contrary to the authority. What does that mean? Did the shaman dude do that? Did he, when he walked in and said, hey, I'm going to go in here, am I possessing it? I think you could say, but he was trespassing, but he was possessing. But they were letting him in. He was possessing it. Did they say, yeah, go down to the well, sit in the speaker's chair? Was this ever authorized? Somebody say, come on in? I don't know. You could argue that. I think it would have been good for him to have a lot of that seemingly exculpatory evidence that Tucker had. But do you see this statute? Did you know this? No. Who knows this? It covers everything. And I think people who get together and do this and fall victim to this nonsense. This is the part which is the most, and I know it sounds great, and I know it's fun, and don't tread on me. I am absolutely as angry, but I would have never, ever, march outside, yeah, okay. Scaling the wall and going in, no. Now, I don't know, the people who were there, who are still in prison, I have no idea. But there's a group of folks who get together and they get into this military thing. They put on a vest, they wear glasses. Antifa does it too. Antifa. Remember that? They had bricks. All of a sudden in New York during the George Floyd protest. Bricks. They just showed up. A pallet of these brick bats. You could just throw these things. And they wore helmets and they wore this and they had, I saw from NYPD Intel, PDFs that they had. What is this? Now, do you think there's any evidence that the president inspired this? Maybe inspired, wrong word. Incited this? I don't believe so. No. He might have been sloppy with his words. He might have said, come on, Mike, do the right thing, maybe. But President Trump, no. But you read that statute and ask yourself, is there a way that a jury can come up with that in Washington with that jury? You betcha. Oh, absolutely. And that's what Jack Smith is doing. If two or more people conspire, is he conspiring? Inciting is a really difficult word. Inciting is a really, really tough word. Brandenburg and all those cases that say that it's not enough just for you to say something. You have to talk about something that's done imminently and have the ability to do so and that sort of thing. So what I'm trying to tell you is simply this. Number one, you better look and see what the actual laws are, number one. And then ask yourself, can they do this? Now, what about Ashley Babbitt? What about that? The only person killed that day. What about? Is that over? Apparently so. Is there a private civil action on the part of her family? I don't know. There was dispute whether the officer Sicknick was killed at the scene. Was it before? Was it after? Who knows? But this case is not done yet. You've got 6 total cases. You got the Alvin Bragg case, which is a dog. You've got the Letitia James case. This is a $250 million civil case, basically, over the overvaluation of property for whatever it was, bank fraud, sort of. You have the Jack Smith case of this kind of a January 6th, whatever, and the Mar-a-Lago case with the documents. Don't rule that one out. And they're looking at Trump as an obstruction of justice, not just having documents. Forget whether they're classified. That's not the issue. The other case is the Fulton County, Georgia, Stop the Steal case, and then finally this E. Jean Carroll case. And people are doing everything in their power to say she's a nut, she's crazy, she's a crazy. Now you've got to ask yourself this question. If you're a juror and you're sitting there, very simple. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is it more probable than not that President Trump or Donald Trump committed sexual assault against this woman based upon the evidence? They put the evidence on, which was unrebutted. The defense put on no defense whatsoever. The only way you can possibly find in her favor or against Donald Trump is if you believe everything. Well, let me strike this. The only way you can find in President Trump's favor is if you just disregard everything that she said, Lisa Birnbach said, the author, her two women, I should say, and other tangential information as well. There's no way. There's no way. They're going to say, no, we don't believe any of it. That means you think what? They made this up? They're lying? Yep. What's the chance of that? In New York against Trump? No. Not to mention with this other particular extraneous stuff. Now remember, this is a civil case. It's not criminal. He can't go to jail or to prison for this. But it goes to show you what we're looking at here. And this is something very, very, very critical. So I hope this helps you. I hope it makes you, it brings to the attention what's going on here. This is what's important to understand. It's not what you think. It's not what you like, whether you like people or don't like people. I came out with something, and I saw very, very clearly that Hunter Biden may have a case, believe it or not, against the shop owner who they brought the laptop to by virtue of Delaware law, which deals specifically with violations of privacy and the like. Because he revealed all this information that was on the laptop that was abandoned. The question is, did you abandon the laptop or the data? If I leave a wallet somewhere and you wait 30 days and I never reclaim it, can you take my credit card numbers and post them everywhere? And, well, I had your wallet. Yeah, but what about the data in the wallet? That's the question. That's the information. So that is what we have to see. Now, will there be riots regarding this subway case? I don't think so. It's different. It's a civilian. It's not the police. It's just a different. Yeah, I'm not ruling it out, but I don't feel it. But you will have Ben Crump show up. I don't know who he's going to sue. This guy, the former Marine. Good luck. There's no money there. You're going to sue what? Who? Ben Crump, most of the time, he and Sharpton and the legal team, there's a city or a police or somebody. Here it's just a private citizen. So it doesn't have the oomph that you normally have with cases like this. It's a tragedy. There's no doubt about it. The family, this is their family member. But I hope this shines a light on the fact that there are people out there who, granted, are through no fault of their own, perhaps, are laboring and suffering under the terrible, the yoke of mental illness. But that doesn't mean that people aren't afraid. And that doesn't mean that individuals don't have the right not to be terrified by these people and traumatized and victimized by these people, irrespective of their own mental capacity and thinking at the time. So anyway, I hope that helps. Do we like this particular time? Do we like this particular time? Do we? Do you like 7 p.m.? I think it's a good time. I think it gives us a chance. A lot of people coming home. Again, it's East Coast, granted, but it's elsewhere. I think it's a good time. I think it's a damn good time. So that's what we're going to do. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Time to pick up with the latest news. I want to thank you again on behalf of a grateful nation. Thank you for your kindness and your courtesy. Thank you, Kiaka0503. It's a beautiful name. And the lovely and talented Howie Brown and his band of renown. Thank you for that. We'll be back tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Until then, I remind you these final words. The monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Ta-ta.